This is the Eversafe solution demonstration. First thing we're going to do is we are currently remote desktoped into one of our actual live servers here. This server is used to demonstrate the Microsoft Dynamics NavX ERP product. We're going to go into this server and just launch off the ERP application to show that it is running in a live server environment. Once the application launches, we'll simply go into looking at a historical invoice, and then we will print preview that invoice to the screen. So we'll go into our invoice, we'll bring it up on screen, and then we will print to the screen and show the live transaction. So as you can see, this is a live production server. Now, we'll go ahead and minimize that and go into our Eversafe demonstration server. The Eversafe device here is backing up a number of servers, as you can see. Each one of them takes up a certain amount of space, which is shown graphically on the left, as well as the last time those servers were synced to the cloud as well. Here is the information about those servers and how they're stored locally, how they're configured, and what their information is. We'll now go into our Protection tab where we set up and manage our actual daily backups. Again, you can see a variety of servers are being backed up here, and the one we're interested in is our NavX server, which is running Windows Server 2008. We can go in here and see a number of options, including manage our recovery points. Each one of these points represents an actual point-in-time snapshot. This particular server is typically backed up about 3 times per day. And as you can see, the amount of data that changes per backup is very minimal, given the fact that each of these snapshots can be put together and assembled into a live bootable machine within minutes. If the icon to the left of it shows a cloud, it means that this copy of the server is also backed up into both of our bi-coastal data centers as well as the local device. We can manually send any one of these up to the cloud by clicking on this. You can also see that each day the system takes a snapshot of the server. If we click on it, it'll show you a screenshot. This is typically emailed to you and proves to you that that particular server has been booted up virtually inside the Eversafe device to ensure that the machine is ready to boot should you actually need it, because the time you want to check your backup and test it is not when you actually need it. Given the inverse chain technology, we have the ability with Eversafe to go ahead and delete any point-in-time backup, either from the cloud or from the local device, simply by clicking Delete Local. And what it does is it actually removes that backup image. However, that has no effect on any backups taken after it. Traditional backup software takes incremental backups, and if any one incremental is damaged, every backup after that incremental is useless, which is not the case with Eversafe. We'll go back to the Protect tab, and now we'll actually kick off a manual snapshot of this server to give you an idea how fast it is. So we simply click Start a Backup, and behind the scenes, the Eversafe server is signaling the NavX server to go ahead and make a backup of itself and bring those backups over to the Eversafe device, and eventually one of those backups based on our settings is going to also be uploaded to the cloud at some point during the day based on the various settings. Now, if we go back over to that live server, you can see it's still fully operational while the backup is being made, because the Eversafe backup technology actively looks at what data is being changed as it's being changed, which results in extremely small load on the server during a backup, and it typically is not noticeable to any users. In addition, because we are tracking the changes as they're happening, the fact is that we're only backing up a small amount of data, and the process is very quick. So the system actually has completely backed up that server in the time that we were talking, and now it's just virtualizing and deduplicating any files that might be duplicated to minimize the space used. And also it's inserting drivers into the backup to ensure that if the backup file has to be booted, it's ready to go for any driver environment versus the physical or virtual server it's sitting on at the moment. And that's it. As you've seen, the backup probably took less than 60 seconds to take an entire snapshot of that machine, and again with no noticeable impact on the machine. We'll now take a look at our Synchronization tab, and here you can see more details on the backups. It shows you your local storage space free, how much space is being used of each backup, how much data is stored in the cloud, and based on each server, how much data in the cloud that server is consuming. You can also see your bandwidth usage over the last 24 hours, which can be carefully shaped based on your business hours, as well as the last synchronization and any errors that may have happened to the cloud. Now let's say a minor problem occurred and we simply needed to restore a file or a series of files from that server. We would go to our Restore tab, pick the server involved, and then tell it what we want to do here. And in this case, we want to simply do a file restore. Here are all the snapshots that we saw that we could restore from. So by picking one of these, the files available will be exactly what they look like on the server at that point in time. So if I go to the 4 a.m. backup, we can select that and say Start File Restore, and it will go ahead, once I tell it I'd like web access, and recompile all of the pieces that make the backup and make it completely available now for restoration. As you saw, there was no pausing or smoke and mirrors here. It happened virtually instantly, and now you can go through the directories here, go into your Documents directory, and see whatever information you might need in that directory. That's how easy it is to go ahead and restore files. You can also restore those files from Share, which is simply a way of putting it in your Windows File Explorer and using that method as well as the web. So we'll go ahead and unmount that point and put it back where it was, and that will disable that restoration process once we've gotten the files we've wanted. Now let's suppose a problem occurred on this actual live server. We're going to go ahead and simulate a disaster by simply shutting down the entire server. So now that we've shut down our live server, we're going to go ahead and restore our backup and run it in the live environment. We're going to pick the server we want to virtualize. We're going to say local virtualization, means run that backed up server on the Eversafe device, and then pick the point in time snapshot, which we're going to pick the backup we just made. We'll click Start Virtualization. The system will then ask us the amount of memory and so forth settings. And at this point, you would typically say disconnect it if you want to just test the virtualization, and you would say bridge to the primary network interface card for an actual live virtualization, because this will now put this backed up server on our network as if it was the live network. You can now see that that server is running, and now it's basically behind the scenes booting up like we just powered up a cold server. So we'll go ahead and put in the IP address, say connect, log in as the correct user, put in our password, and now you see we're logging in to the virtualized machine, assuming the live machine failed over. Now we're in here, we're going to go ahead and log into the ERP application, which is a significant application which runs on Microsoft SQL Server. And just like we did before in the live machine, we'll go to Posted Documents, we'll go to Invoices, we'll bring up that first invoice, we'll look at the details, and then we'll go ahead and preview that invoice. And as you can see, the performance is about the same as the original server in all respects. So we have a live working machine. So what we've gone ahead and showed you is a scenario in which your live server crashed or went down, and we were able to bring up a snapshot of that server from any point in time, including a backup that only took minutes prior. The next situation we're going to simulate is what happens if your entire facility goes down and you need to access your server in the cloud, because Eversafe is not only backing up to the local device, but also backing up to 2 data centers that can run your servers in the event of a site disaster. So we'll go ahead and actually shut down this failed over server. And the next thing we're going to go to is our recovery launchpad, where you can see in the cloud we have this machine, and we're using an image that was taken at 4 o'clock in the morning the prior day, and we can access it via RDP. So we'll just go through here, download a connection script and open it, accept the warning, and now we're going to log into the machine, except the machine is running in the data center and not on the local Eversafe. We'll now hit Control-Alt-Delete to log in. We'll select our user. and now bring up that server. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to launch the ERP application just like we did on our local premises. And it's loading up the application. Again, this was a cold started server, so it takes a little while for the various services to settle in and SQL Server to cache. And now, just like before, we'll go to our invoices, select that here. We'll pick that same first invoice, double click, you can see all the details, and we will go ahead and print preview that invoice. And as you can see, the performance in the cloud, again, is very similar to the performance of the original system. So to summarize, what we've done is we've overviewed the Eversafe device. We've gone ahead and allowed a file restore for a simple lost or deleted file. We've also gone ahead and created a backup. We simulated a local server going down and bringing up a backup of that server onto our network from the Eversafe device. We then simulated the actual site going down and brought up a copy of that server from the cloud so that we could access that server remotely and use it to operate our business no matter what kind of disaster strikes. Thank you.